So one of the upgrades required for the Worktable Sawmill is the installation of a choke on the motor. One of the viewers noticed that there are a lot of sparks inside the treadmill motor, and this is related to the fact that I'm not using a choke. So I'm going to be taking this transformer and converting it to a choke. You can see I've already removed the secondary windings. I have the primary windings here, but what I've noticed is that connected to the primary windings is some very light wire. This looks like 22, maybe even 24 gauge, and I'd like that to get down to probably 18 gauge at a minimum, 16 gauge possibly, but that depends a little bit upon what's inside this coil. I'm expecting that the wires inside this coil on the transformer are significantly bigger than this, so we'll put on some stranded 18 gauge wire, which will be the same as what's going into the treadmill motor, but I need to take this apart first so I can desolder this. Okay, over at the Worktable Sawmill, there's a few changes that we're doing to the wiring. Obviously the choke, which I now have put on some heavier gauge wire. This is from the extension cord that actually came, or from the power cord that actually came with the treadmill, so I'm happy with the gauge of that wire. But one other thing I want to do here, the blue wires represent the cutoff circuit. And right now I have the cutoff circuit working on the DC side. And what I think would be better to do would be to cut off power to this unit entirely, to the whole system, based on overcurrent draw here. So I'm going to change this so that the hot lead coming from a power source will go through that cutoff circuit and cut off power to the whole unit should this overheat. So that's the first thing that'll happen. Then we'll wire in the choke on the DC side, and that'll be sitting right in here. So a couple little changes to make, and be back in a minute. So there's the first change made. So AC power is now going through the blue wires down here, through the cutoff circuit and back into this unit. So if the motor overheats, then all power is cut to this control unit. So we won't have anything going in there. I now have the motor wired up, DC going directly into the motor. I haven't put the choke on yet. What I wanted to do was run this and just take a look, kind of capture the sparks before, how the motor is behaving before putting on the choke, and how the motor behaves after the choke is applied. So I'm going to turn the motor on now, and we'll have a look at this. So that was a look pre-choke. Now I'll put the choke in, and let's see what difference that makes. All right, got the choke in place. Wired DC to the motor. So we'll fire it up and then take a look for sparks. So one or two sparks that may have shown up on the video that I saw. You probably saw them too. Significantly less than without the choke. So the choke stays. I'm just going to wire it in a little better, a little nicer. Cut off these things, of course. Tie the wires down a little bit more. So that's upgrade number 1. Upgrade number 2 is, I'm going to show you that in just a second, but that's going to require me to lift the motor up just a little bit higher on the stand. Let me show you what I have in mind. What I have here is some kind of a protective conduit that, you see this running up and down the side of power poles where the wires from the transformer come down underground. So these are used to protect those wires. So I had this given to me. Thanks, Brendan. I thought, hey, this would make a really decent blade guard. So I need to raise the motor just a little bit and then figure out a way to mount this. But at least this will keep fingers and toes and clothing away from at least the top of the blade. And then I'll see if this is bendable at all and maybe find a way to wrap it around. Ultimately, upgrade number 3 is going to be some dust collection coming off here. Upgrade number 4 is going to be that crank that I talked about. So we'll have some rope coming down here to a pulley across to the other side and back to that leg, so that as I'm standing over here driving the saw through the wood, I can just kind of crank that handle and that will pull the whole assembly forward evenly on both sides. Now, another viewer commented that there was a little bit of torsional shifting happening when I fire up the saw. So I'm going to take a look for that too, and if that's an issue, we'll address that. But that's what's coming, so stay tuned. Please like and subscribe.